Welcome to Gazali. Today we have with us somebody who has really made Goa proud. She was the first Asian to win Miss World, Rita Faria. She had Goan parents. Her father was from Thivim and mother from Santa Cruz, but she was born in Bombay, the British Bombay. And she's perhaps the only Miss World who became a doctor, who completed her medical studies and did not go into perhaps the film or modeling. Welcome, Rita. Really wonderful to have you, because I think it's almost like, in Goa, after marriage, the daughter returns back home. And I think we consider Goa is your actually home, so welcome.
My ancestral home it is,
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I love it.
And you have a home in Goa. You came in that connection.
Well, we have a home, but nobody's been living in it for several years. So unfortunately, it's not in very good shape at the moment and condition. But, with the way the circumstances have gone, my sister lives in Australia, I live in Ireland. And it's unlikely that we'll ever live here again. So.
Yeah, well, tell me, 1966 was a period perhaps where even wearing a bikini must have been, sort of a big task. Something which is revolutionary.
Even wearing a full swimsuit was a big task because, it was difficult. But I must say, I do not know how I went through that thing, because I was on my own, you see, in London. There wasn't any question of being accompanied or anything. So I was put on a plane and sent. And when I arrived there, the organizers take over and they sort of take you to your hotel and assign you a room. And the competition starts, more or less. For the first week, for the first few days, we're going around being shown the Houses of Parliament and Piccadilly Circus and the sights of London. And then they gradually start rehearsals. And all this without anybody that I know around me.
Was there any resistance from home or from family?
No, but it was the first time they'd sent a contestant, so they didn't know.
No, in Mumbai, in Bombay.
Nothing.
When you were a medical student?
I was a medical student. I did it as a joke.
Yeah.
I did it not thinking I'd get very far, because I had no experience in modeling or photography or anything, where to look and where.
But did you take part in many beauty contests?
No,
in
not at
Bombay,
all.
no?
Never.
Only one, Eve's Weekly.
That's it.
Only one?
Only one. And this was the first time India was sending a contestant, so there was big ads all over, enter Miss
World.
Miss India or Miss Bombay for Miss World. And somebody in the school said, why don't we do it as a
And
joke?
you had never done that before? Never walked a ramp?
Never walked a ramp, never put on any makeup, never done anything. So the contest required us to send a photograph. So I had to go to a photographer to get a full-length photograph. Now my sister, who was kind of pushing the situation, she refused to enter. Then at the last minute, she said, "No, you go," she said. Anyway, she had been flying for British BOAC at the time.
Okay.
And she felt that, it would do me good if I got a trip to Europe at least. I'd have this wonderful experience. So I was selected among the many people that entered. They pared it down to about 150. And they invited all 150 to the Taj to interview us. Okay. So I walk in and
Persis Kambata, she was a professional model at that time?
She was indeed, and she actually was not competing because she had already won something.
Miss India.
She had won the Miss India
Eves.
to go to America.
Okay.
And I think she featured third or something in that competition. So she had established herself as such. But she loaned me her swimsuit. Now I'll come to that later. But so anyhow, I'm at the Miss Bombay competition. I'm selected for the next 50 contestants to present ourselves for the final day. I have to get myself a sari because that's what they said you had to wear. And I never worn a sari before.
You've never worn a sari before?
Never worn a sari before. So somebody teaches me how to put the sari on and to hold it on, and I put that on. I'm so tall that I was wearing flat chappals, okay, because I thought, God, if I put heels or anything, I'm going to hit the roof here. And as I walked in the ramp, the new chappal broke.
Oh.
So I didn't pause. I took the other one off and I just walked barefoot.
Okay.
So that was my good luck story, I think, breaking a chappal. Like.
And this was in Bombay?
Bombay. And I won.
You won that, Eve's Weekly.
Eve's Weekly, Miss Bombay.
And this was the same year, 66?
It was 2 months before winning the Miss World.
Okay.
2 months. So 66, so that small little headline in the Times, medical student wins Miss Bombay. And nobody really noticed it.
And you were in first MBBS or second MBBS?
Final MBBS.
You were in final MBBS. Still you found time to sneak out?
Well, I mean, this was only a little bit of a diversion, I thought, and it was a bit of frivolity before I qualified. And I was never going to be able to do something like that once I had my MBBS, So anyhow, and I'm going back and forth to college at this point. Miss India is getting organized. The Miss India, all the 5 regions came in to Bombay with 3 winners, first, second, and third. So 15 of us compete for the Miss India title. And at this time, they said, now, why don't we have a swimsuit competition?
Okay. That was the first time they were doing a swimsuit.
First time they did a swimsuit on the ramp. As well as, yes, one piece. Definitely one piece. I didn't think even in the Miss World it had to be one piece. Yeah. So because at the Miss Bombay they asked us to just lift the sari up a little bit to show our legs.
Okay.
So up to the knees, we lifted the sari, but they felt that was a bit awkward.
Okay.
So we had our swimsuit. That's when Persis Kambata's swimsuit came in.
Okay.
Because I didn't have a swimsuit.
Okay. And did you know to swim?
Well, I did. We'd go to the pools and that, but I didn't have the proper swimsuit that would be.
And after you got your Miss India, were there many offers for modeling?
No, because 2 weeks after winning Miss India, I was sent to London.
Okay.
So at this point, they're busy making passports and
Okay.
telling me what I should wear, and telling my mother I think she should take warm clothes, and my mother was terrified and getting me warm nighties with up to here and long sleeves and everything. So eventually, in 2 weeks, I fly to London with my passport with 3 pounds.
By yourself?
By myself.
Yeah.
Nobody with me. With 3 pounds foreign exchange, that was the official.
3 pounds?
3 pounds, because they assumed that everything would have been taken care of by the organizers, in as much as they picked you up and they took you to the counter, they paid for your hotel, and at the end of it, I had a return ticket to come home.
And then the Miss World Award is 250 pounds. Yeah.
2,500
2,500
pounds or something. But, that was big help. But 3 pounds bought me my swimsuit and my shoes that I wore for the contest. I mean, can you imagine 3 pounds? Now you wouldn't get...
And with 3 pounds you bought both?
Both, because things weren't, prices weren't that high. But, so that's how it all started. And a week after I arrived in London, I won the Miss World at that point.
And then what happened? I mean, there were many offers.
Well, what happens there is that you get the organizers, Mecca, you're already contracted to them in the event that you win the contest. You are there under contract for a year.
Okay.
So you're the reigning Miss World. Yeah. None of us had read that contract. So when I arrived there was no question of saying, I'm sorry, I'm going back home to finish my medical study.
Yeah, then they said no.
You have to spend the year here. And they had a whole program of, what you were going to do. And the previous 3 Miss Worlds had gone with Bob Hope to Vietnam, for instance. That was a big deal for so it was publicity, and that. So I found myself then, in November, I'd won, 17th of November. They were then announcing that Miss World is going to with Bob Hope to Vietnam. Because at that point it caused a bit
So that became even politically incorrect here.
Politically caused a little bit of tension. But Mecca were not going to let me out of the contract.
Okay.
They said, look, she's under contract.
So you took a break for the year?
I took the break for the year. And it was a very pleasant break, I mean, it was very exciting who wouldn't want to take a year off college? But can you imagine, Subodh, as a medical student or as any student, having the opportunity to spend a year
traveling around the world,
doing nothing, really, just a year off.
So how many countries did you visit as a reigning Miss World?
A lot of countries. A lot of countries, America, South America, Africa.
And everywhere there was a red carpet.
Red carpet, VIP treatment.
And you were not allowed to take anybody with you, sort of your
at
parents
this stage,
or father, mother?
but nobody came because, in those days it was difficult to travel. And they felt, well, I know, I'm in good, they thought I was managing. But it was difficult, because there was a very tight schedule. You'd be arriving from someplace and the next thing there's another engagement. And I said to them, look, I'm not going to do any modeling, no advertising. I'll do personal appearances.
Why was that? There was never a temptation to go into films or go into advertising?
The reason for that was, in those days, as a doctor, publicity was taboo, in the medical profession.
Yeah.
So if I had started this and become sort of advertising and that, it would have made my medical profession a little bit awkward.
Yeah.
They didn't like doctors seeking publicity.
No. But you became anyway a doctor, and you were the only Miss World who treated patients. And the patient must have, you given them heart problems.
Boom-biddy, boom-biddy-boom.
Absolutely. But there were offers from the films.
There were, in fact, offers in Hollywood as well because when I went to Vietnam, we had to go via Hollywood to pick, we met Bob Hope and the whole troupe flew from Los Angeles all the way to the Philippines, and we based ourselves in Thailand at that point.
And you never did any ads at all?
Nothing.
Not a single, not even a soap?
And in fact, I never sort of, what should I say, I didn't exploit the title.
Yeah. You must have been perhaps the only Miss World who did not do any sort of, because everybody must have at least advertised for this or the other.
But I had said to them, look, I'll do the contract on condition.
But was it because of some kind of a principle? There must have been a lot of money also if you did that.
There could have been a lot of money, but the principle was that I was not going to be diverted from my studies, because it could have been a temptation to stay with it. And
so medicine was very dear to you, and
well,
you
it was important to me, and that's what I wanted to do from my childhood.
Okay.
And I'd come that far. And I felt it would have been very difficult to go back. It was difficult enough after 1 year to go back to studies. It would have been impossible, and I might have regretted it for the rest of my life. So I said, well, don't want to take a chance.
So actually, we have been talking about medicine, medical ethics. You're not only, Miss World and the beauty pageant, but also actually a very example to many doctors that now there is so much of publicity that what happens in medical
completely
field.
changed since those days. Well, when I went to Vietnam, I thought this was I didn't know what to expect in a war zone. And we used to, as I said, we based ourselves in Bangkok, and every morning the troop, what I mean, not the military troops, but the entertaining troupe would go by military plane into the war zone. And in the war zone, they'd have a huge stage, and about 5,000 young men would be gathered there. And 2 rows of that gathering would be the wounded soldiers, and they would be all sitting in front, either in their beds or in their wheelchairs. So it was a very emotional situation for me, here am I.
And what kind of performance?
I just spoke with Bob Hope. We had an interaction.
Okay.
He's a comic, and he just wanted to entertain and make them laugh. So I couldn't dance, I couldn't sing. So
you couldn't dance?
Well, I wasn't going to kick my legs and dance. There were sort of his group that would do the kicking of the legs and that. But I said, listen, I'm not. I did manage to sing in a threesome a song with 2 singers that were there. But not very well, I'm sure. Anyway, the troops liked it.
And you shook hands with the soldiers?
We shook hands with the wounded soldiers? And we signed autographs. But the tragedy of war really just gets you, all these people fighting for nothing.
Yeah, you felt that.
Oh,
What
I
are your
felt
opinions of war now?
Awful. Just terrible. Terrible. It's sort of heartbreaking, isn't it?
And which were tell us something about some of the most interesting experiences apart from the Vietnam. What was very interesting? Which place did you enjoy?
Well, I enjoyed East Africa because we went on this. The safaris weren't that organized, but you see the animals there, which was very exciting for me. I went to South America and saw some wonderful things, and people. It was the people that made my year, and I mean, I loved being with different nationalities, learning about their food and their.
Mm-hmm. And then, okay, we can speak about the romance with Dr. Powell. When did it start?
It started. It didn't really start, but when David had seen me when I made a personal appearance in Dublin. He had first seen me on television.
Okay, when the pageant
in the pageant.
Happened, yeah.
It was a very widely viewed pageant, as you can imagine. Everybody in Europe had their televisions tuned on that night. And David was a just recently qualified junior hospital doctor. So he was an intern.
In King's Hospital?
No, he was in Dublin.
He's in Dublin.
Dublin.
Okay.
And that's where he trained and qualified. So he sort of was on duty. They all sitting in the doctor's common room and watching the television. And he sees a medical student, and he thought, well, that's nice. He said, I like that lady, he said. So when I made a personal appearance in Dublin, and I asked to go to a lecture in the College of Surgeons by Michael DeBakey. Do you remember Michael?
Yeah, Michael DeBakey, the heart surgeon.
Yeah, had come to Dublin. And there was a lot of things, Michael DeBakey.
Did you break his heart too?
No. He was a bit old.
He was the first man to transplant.
That's right. That's right. So he was lecturing in Dublin, and David said, "I'll go to the lecture too," because I was attending. But of course, apparently, when he arrived, I was completely surrounded by all the old professors and everything. You see, and David couldn't even get in to look at me, let alone say hello to me. So he was very frustrated. Went home and he said, "That's my chance gone."
So he couldn't meet you that day?
Couldn't meet, never thought he'd meet. But it so happened that he got his next post, senior house officers at King's College Hospital. So, and my first day of college, which was the 1st of September, I cut my year by
Why did you decide to go to King's College?
Well, because I had this problem about my passport and I couldn't come back. So the organizers said, "Don't worry, you can continue your medical school in King's." But the year my Miss World year would have ended in November. But college year was starting in September, and they said, "Fine, you go and start college, and any engagements that we've already planned, you'll have to fulfill, but otherwise we won't take in any more engagements." So I go into college, and the first day, Roger Williams, I don't know, do you know the name? Roger Williams was the liver pioneer, and he had just set up in King's College Hospital. So I became his student, and the student. And David was his first houseman. So he calls up David, he bleeps
So you were
David.
doing your post-graduation then?
No, I was doing my final year medicine.
Oh,
then.
you did your final year medicine in King's College?
King's, I finished in King's then.
Okay.
I never came back to
Was there
Grand.
much difficulty shifting from Grand Medical College
because
to
it's
King's College? No?
Completely similar curriculum.
Yeah.
And they took the first and up to third med, they took the same marks.
Okay.
So I entered final med there, did medicine, surgery.
Because it was British India. No,
Exactly.
No.
Well, it wasn't, but
No,
it was the
but
British.
the same curriculum.
The curriculum
Yeah,
was
yeah.
exactly the same. So Roger Williams calls David and he says, "Powell, I want you to look after Miss Faria. She's our new student."
Oh, well,
And
so
of course, Miss
he was
Faria.
in seventh heaven.
So you couldn't believe it. And Miss Faria is accompanied by a whole troupe of photographers who wanted to catch the first day of medical school.
So
And
you were
that's
already famous in the college
instantly.
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 Okay. So every week, how many proposals did you get?
Well, not too many. I think David Powell took great care of me.
Took care of you. Okay.
He's still taking care of me.
Yes, of course. You practiced for how many years?
I practiced in, when we met then, he was doing his postgraduate training and then he was going to the States. So I went along with him to the States and worked as an epidemiologist in Boston. And then when I came back when we returned to Dublin to settle, I started doing my house posts at that stage. But I'd already had one baby at that point. In fact, both the children were born within a year, so it was a bit hampering.
So then you decided to look after them?
Well, by the time they were 4 and 5, I was missing that whole thing. It was difficult because there was no my family wasn't there. I couldn't leave them with somebody that I didn't really know. So I sort of said, we decided I'd take a break. But of course, the longer I took a break, the more I enjoyed being with my girls. And it became very difficult then too.
So after 1 year of being Miss World, after that you never went back in that world?
Completely
out of that world?
Completely. It was literally a break, complete break. Never, I was invited to judge 3 other competitions, but sporadically they'd send a letter and they said...
Well, since you're not too much in the fashion world now, let's talk about Goa. Now, what is your relationship with Goa?
How could I describe it? It's sort of a relationship that I love Goa. I love Goa, but I mean, it's one of those things that I'd love to come back. Anytime somebody says we're going to Goa, I'm delighted. But my life didn't permit me to come because, we were so embroiled with bringing up my 2 girls. David was extremely busy.
He's one of the most well-known endocrinologists.
Yes, that's right. So it was a busy time. And I sort of couldn't get time off because if he was traveling, I had to be at home to look after the children.
And now you have 5 grandchildren.
5 gorgeous grandchildren, yes.
And they live in the same house?
No, but they live near us.
Nearby. So
nearby. We have.
Now you're a professional grandmother.
Absolutely, from being a professional mother to professional. But it's great because I think they need some input from an elderly person now.
Okay, today we have organized the evening for you with so that Govind could meet you.
I'm delighted.
And there's so many young models who want to meet with you. What kind of a message would you have for them?
Well, you're asking the wrong person who never did the modeling, but I'm sure, what can I say? Except that I suppose if you enjoy something in life, there's no harm in doing it. It's a very lucrative profession now, isn't it?
Yeah, wonderful talking to you. And I think I really like that statement of yours, whether you're Miss World or whether you're Miss Universe, your fit should be grounded on the earth. And you have never let that go. You are first good human being, and the Miss World just happened, by the way.
It did. It happened by accident, and I always said it was an accident of genetics almost also. That's why.
Yeah, accident of genetics is, well, thank you for coming, and I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Subodh.